tonight I have a guest that I have been wanting to have on my show for at least 5 years. He has avoided me like the plague, but finally he's available. He's B101 when he was living in Barrie. He was at Rogers on daytime for many, many years with Melanie Chase. Case, I think. Will Nash is my guest for the hour. Welcome.
Gerry, thank you so much for having me.
And I the first time I've seen you on TV, I've never seen you in person.
Right.
And when you came into the studio this evening, I looked at you and I went, oh, you're tall.
6'2".
6'2", yeah.
6'2",
so
yeah.
Tall.
It's good to finally be here.
Good.
Yeah, thanks
and
for
it's
having
like
me.
I think you tweeted or you sent me via Messenger that it's like old home week, and you know the studio has changed. And
I mean, you know, it's been a few years since I've been here. Like you said, we did daytime right here in this exact studio, but there's just been so many changes even outside of the studio. But it's so good to see so many familiar faces being here too.
Right. And you're now living in Toronto.
Yeah, I've been living in Toronto for the last 3 years. Before that, I had spent a number of years in Barrie. So, you know, it's a fun city, just down the road, right?
So media is your passion, I'm thinking.
Yeah, like when I was working here, I was, like you said, doing the show on Rogers right here, daytime at the time. And then I ended up moving from Barrie to Toronto to get a job at Virgin Radio. That was always like when I set out going into media, going into radio and TV, I always, for me, a part of like the dream of it all was to be able to get a job working in Toronto. So it was kind of something that was always on my bucket list, something that I always wanted to do. So when the opportunity came about 3.5 years ago to do that, I was like, yep, sign me up, I'm down, right? So yeah, I'm still living in Toronto, and yeah, but honestly, I always feel like, you know, I had a big connection to Barrie when I was living here.
Right.
And it really, although I'm not from Barrie initially, there always is that sense of like support and friends and family. One of my best girlfriends, she lives in Barrie. It's just like going to visit family when I'm there. You know, it's kind of like that taste of home, right? So I love coming back to visit.
B101 was something you did for a number of years.
Yeah, I guess it was in the summer of 2010. I started out there. I had actually just been working in Alberta with radio and broadcasting. You tend to move around a lot to different cities and different markets. And I just came back, and I was once again looking for a job. And I started out working at Beat 101, which I believe now is Big 101. But at the time, it was a top 40 format. I was on the air doing the weekend show, and then eventually I got promoted to doing the evening show live, which I'd actually never had the evening show live before. So at the time, it was pretty cool because, you know, a lot of the young, like people in their 20s and teenagers, that was the station they were listening to. So I'd be in the studio and just, you know, when I wasn't on the air introducing the songs or going onto social media, I'd be, you know, talking to the listeners regularly on the phones. And, you know, it was the kind of the station that kids would run home from school and listen to and, you know, request Justin Bieber, like that sort of a thing, right? So it was a real, again, a sense of community here in Barrie.
Yeah. I know, because I mentioned to a few of my friends that you were coming on. They said, oh, yeah, B101. Not daytime, which is maybe because a lot of these folks, daytime was shot during the day.
Yeah, I mean, at the time...
So a lot of people wouldn't see that.
True. The last year that I was working in Barrie, I would come here in the morning, like literally here. I was in here for a few hours, you know, meet the guests, you know, shoot the show, and then I would have a couple of hours of downtime in between, and then I would go and I would do the radio show at night. And then even sometimes I'd have events to go to after that. So it was a little busy, it was a little chaotic, but I feel like I also thrive off of that. Like I thrive off of being busy, and especially when, you know, you're kind of getting to do what you love to do, right? Like as we're so lucky to do working in media. Exactly.
And speaking of media, so radio is you don't necessarily see your guests, or did you have guests on, or because was it call in? Just
so it depends on like for me the last close to like I've been in media for over 15 years, but the last 10 years I've worked a lot in like top 40 radio. And when I say top 40, if you know people aren't familiar with it who are watching right now, just what's popular. Like it could be Beyonce, Shawn Mendes, Justin Bieber, Drake, The Weeknd. So you know you're not, if you listen to any of those stations, they're not actually talking for a lot of time. You know, it's kind of, you have your 10 seconds, your 20 seconds, your 30 seconds. Maybe if you're on a morning show, you might be doing a little more interviewing, but it's not a whole lot of talking to like guests coming on per se like this. It's more so trying to get those sound bites of listeners, hey, what are you doing on the weekend? Or, kind of chiming in on something that's happening in like the pop culture world, or even just like requesting, right? So, but, working in radio, you get the chance to interview, go to concerts and interview people. If there's an award show.
On your show.
Play it back, or the way it is in 2019, play a clip of it back, like play a minute of it, and then say, hey, for more, go to the website, or for more, kind of stream it over here, right? So, and I will say, like, one of the things I loved about being here was I learned so much about the art of interviewing.
Right.
Because you're just, before you know it, you 5 minutes, you sit down, okay, talk for an hour, right?
Yeah.
So, but it was like, I just felt like, that the TV stuff that I did at Rogers definitely always helped me progress with, my radio career, and even just with some of the things that I'm doing now as well, right? So.
One of the good things about this kind of a show, for me anyway, is that it's not scripted.
No.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I mean, you have an idea of what you might talk about, but it can go in all sorts of directions, which makes it interesting to the viewer because they don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
They don't know what questions are going to come up.
We don't know.
We don't know. Because I remember tweeting it out saying, we may get into our personal life. We don't know. But media in and of itself is an interesting component today because so much of it is instant. Yeah. Like, for example, yesterday, Thursday, I wake up and I watch on CNN and Jesse Smollett suddenly is arrested. I mean, but the media coverage and the attention given to this this incident that happened, that he said happened, now they're saying, well, it was all staged. Right.
Well, and I guess the thing is with the instance is the fact that, Jesse Smollett is gay, he's black, and it looked like he was attacked, right? And then a lot of celebrities were literally posting pictures with him on their Instagram and on their social media in support of him because he really has been supported by a lot of people in that entertainment world, right?
Including the show.
Including the show. Yeah. And then so now it's mind-boggling to me because, to be honest, like, I'm super active on social media, always tweeting on Facebook, Instagram, and whatnot. And for me, to be honest, I don't even really watch Empire, but I've followed his career in terms of like the music world. He's affiliated with a lot of like artists and stuff. And I tweeted about when it initially first had happened, thinking like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I felt something for what he was going through. And then, I'm kind of curious to see now what some of these big names are going to be saying about it now that it's correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't heard the exact latest, but it's looking like it was kind of constructed by him, right?
Yeah, looks like it.
And to me, it's like, that's so sad because it's like, if something like that is going to happen, which it's horrible if it actually happens, I think that, it's something that we're still dealing with in 2019. I mean, it did happen, it allegedly was to have happened in the States, but it could happen literally in the backyard sort of thing. And I think that why would he do this, right? Even if like everyone has their issues, everybody has their things that they're going through, but it's just not a good look for, anybody. Like, it doesn't matter what your preference is, what your background is. It's just like, I can't even imagine what the reasoning would be because it just sets everybody back so much in my mind, right?
Well, it impacts not just his career, but it impacts those that actually are being attacked because they're gay, because they're black, or gay, or white, or just anyone in that LGBTQ2 spectrum being attacked and go, was it really? Did it really happen to you?
I know. And see, that's the thing is, it's like, it's kind of funny, like, when you grow up and, you're a kid and, for me, you're trying to figure out, where your place is in the world, right? And long before I ever, really felt comfortable in my own skin, I feel like I was always one of those people that, because I think that our parents think differently than we think, and our grandparents think differently than our parents think. And I always had this thing in me where when it came to like people, putting people in a box or being prejudiced or stereotyped. And this is like as a kid, I remember like just being so angry inside when I would hear anybody judging somebody based on, especially back then, it was more so talk that I would hear older people talk about like the color of somebody's skin, right? And I think it's just, That was 30 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's like, to think that this, I can't even imagine what the reasoning behind this would be, that it was kind of constructed or that it was like a media stunt, which I don't think, assuming that he's 100% guilty, it's probably not going to be too good in his favor.
Which brings me back to the whole piece around the media, is that information is so easily accessible now.
Yeah.
Like you're there.
Yeah.
And the cameras are lined up in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And up to the steps of the courthouse, and you see him going there, and you see him arriving at the police station, turning himself in with his lawyers. And I mean, suddenly you're involved and you have so much information. And it almost lends some credibility to what the President of the United States keeps calling fake news.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Then, like, you can see someone like that latching onto this and going, see?
I know.
See?
I know. And that's the thing. It's interesting because while the whole fake news concept has been something I think we've been, discussing over the last couple of years, we're happy, and I'm so thankful that I live in Canada, and I'm sure you would say the same. But what happens in the States directly correlates with what's happening up here and the rest of the world, right? But I think that when it comes to fake news, so this was an actual, like, to the Jussie Smollett case, it was like that was an actual story that was put out there by CNN, by ABC, like all of the major outlets in North America and in the world, and now people are probably like, okay, what do I believe anymore? Right? It's like, I know with my parents and my mom, over the last couple of years, she's gotten into Facebook. She really wasn't into social media. And she'll send me something like an article or a link or something. Did you know that ... I'm like, Mom, no, that's not real. Like, what's the website? What's the, official source of this? I think that, working in media too, you really have to kind of go through it and really make sure that your sources are accurate, especially if you're reporting on something, whether it's on TV, on radio, on social media. And I'd even say like the power with social media with that is insane, because you'll often see these death hoaxes that go online, right? When it says somebody had passed away, it's like, well, no, they've actually been dead for 5 years, or they're still alive and they're doing well, right? But with the whole fake news thing, it's such disarray. And
you can get caught for retweeting something 6 years ago. Like there's a city councillor, Keenan Alwyn, who retweeted something a couple of years ago about the Orlando Brown. Now that's coming back to haunt him. And so the whole piece around media and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, it can come back to bite you. Even if you did it innocently, somebody checks you out, and that stuff doesn't go away.
And even, with the whole, I don't know how much you knew about the issue with, like, Kevin Hart and hosting the Oscars, and he had said some, homophobic comments, which, initially he was set to host the Oscars that are coming up, and then, then he wasn't, and then people were like, okay, he said this stuff about people who were gay, and then he came back and retracted it, and, was kind of trying to prove on how he wasn't like that in 2019, but it really, it's funny, because people say now, watch what you're putting out there now, watch what you're putting online now, or saying out loud now, because you never know who's recording you, but I think that we don't often think about what we've said or what we've done in the past. I think that's the thing where it's like, we think, okay, it's 2019, I'm very pro this, I'm, politically correct, and I support everybody, but sometimes I think it is that stuff. I mean, even with all the stuff with Me Too, right? And all those instances of things that happened, to the Bill Cosbys of the world, the Kevin Spaceys of the world, that they probably, I'm sure 30 years later, they thought that would never come back to haunt them, right?
Right.
And now, I think anyone who's growing up now, I think you have to grow up in the society of, just be very aware, be self-aware of what you're doing, what you're saying, who you're associating yourself with. I've had the opportunity to teach part-time at a college, like for broadcasting in Hamilton Mohawk College. And it's like, I always say, not that you don't go out on a Saturday night and have a few drinks and kind of let loose a little bit, right? But you don't necessarily need to have that on your social media, because employers are, the first thing is, if you want to hire, maybe you want to hire me. So the first thing somebody's going to do is you're going to go to Google, put in Will Nash, and see what I did, right? And it's like, you'd like to think that there's nothing on there that would be like, ooh, we don't want to hire him because of this. And I hear that from people who are in positions all the time to hire, who are in management positions where they're hiring people, and they're like, yeah, like this person might have everything we're looking for in the ad, in the job ad, but I don't like what they're putting out there on social media.
Exactly.
TMI.
No. So gay
Yeah.
in media, and so with Jussie Smollett, for example, when it first came out, well, he's gay.
Yeah.
And they shouted homophobic slurs at him. Do straight people ever get attacked? And do they get shouted at, oh, you're straight, I'm attacking you because you're straight?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Does it become sensational because it's homophobic, or does it become sensational because I don't mean to go on and on about Jussie, but he's in the news right now. Is it because he's black and he's somewhat famous? Is it because he's gay, or is it a combination of everything?
I think, I think that when it comes to, I think in the last 10 to 15 years, I'll say, maybe the last 20 years, there's been a big movement in terms of media with, a celebrity of any background coming out. Remember all those years back when Ellen DeGeneres came out on her show, and she was unemployed for 10 years, essentially, right?
Right.
And now she's one of the most powerful people in Hollywood, right? And I think that with people like Jussie Smollett, even like we talked about off-air, Don Lemon from CNN.
Anderson Cooper.
Right. I mean, I was in that case. I was talking about black men,
right.
But it's one of these things where now that's kind of slowly creeping up, and we know a couple of people who are in the black community who have come out as gay. So I think that back to your other point, no, I think that most times people who are heterosexual or define themselves as heterosexual are probably not being attacked on that. Maybe they're attacked on other characteristics which surrounds them. But I think that, it's unfortunate that it really did have to come out in that way, because it's just, I think my point is that it looked like we were kind of working on getting to a point where, here's some black men who are in Hollywood who are comfortable to come out and say, I am gay, and, be more accepted, I think, than they had been. Not to say that they hadn't gone through their own struggles, or had people do and say horrible things to them, but I think that it was a really big step for, obviously I can't speak being white, but I think it was a big step for the black community to come out to that point where it's like celebrities are starting to come out and do that, because there is homophobia everywhere, right?
Anderson Cooper did an interview when he came out, and apparently in his circle, or he was known, and he had a boyfriend at the time,
right?
And he said that he was being pressured to come out because he could be a good role model. But I'm wondering, in media, did it matter? I look at him now, and I don't see a gay man. I see a journalist who is very inquisitive and is great at what he does. And, he's a very handsome man, good to look at. But, I don't see a gay guy.
Well, you know what I think it is? That there's so much that I'm thinking as you say that out loud, right? And I think that when you're in a position that's a public position, the position that he's in is a very public. He's known all around the world with some of the work that he's gotten to cover and report on. I look at someone like him, and I actually can relate quite a bit to that, because, I think he wants to be known for the work that he's doing, right? When he walks into a room, he doesn't want people to define him by that one thing. Define him by the fact that, he's gay, he's not gay, he has a partner, he doesn't have a partner, whatever it is. And I think that's commendable in terms of being able to, he probably wants to be more known for his work and his work ethics than he does. He doesn't want people to think the first thing you think is Anderson Cooper walks through, oh, the gay guy is here, yay. You know what I mean?
I think Gloria Vanderbilt's son is here.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Right. And it's working in media, I can relate to that, right? I think that, maybe at the time when he was really starting to come up, I think he had some, concern, if I come out, and maybe at the time he was probably looking at, I mentioned Ellen, looking at people like Ellen and saying, will I lose my career? Will I, not continue to grow if I come out as gay, right? And I think that can still be a fear in 2019. And I think that it does take time, and even speaking personally myself, it does take time for people to feel that comfort level of where they want to, share that information or share that personal side of themselves with somebody. And if they don't want to, they shouldn't feel like they have to. But it's, as you know, like, it's such a personal thing. And I think that, the more people that know that about you, as long as you don't, ideally you're not changing who you are, I think that, let's be real, like, when it comes to media, for the most part, you want people to watch with Gerry, and you want people to like the people who are coming on here, and you want people to be like, oh, look, what's Gerry going to ask next, right? So they're kind of falling for you as they watch you, right?
Right.
It's the same sort of thing. I think that when you reveal something personal about yourselves, and, ideally, most people watching will be accepting of it and not have an issue for it, they kind of fall for you a little bit more. If they're a fan to begin with, right?
Brokeback Mountain came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
Played by two straight guys.
Yeah.
There was a lot of controversy, well, why don't you get gay guys to play those parts? But they're actors.
Yeah.
So actors can get into roles and become that role for that role.
Exactly.
Do you feel that in media, do you feel that if someone's gay, that needs to be known in terms of, are they promoting an agenda?
Right.
Are they trying to say, I'm okay, you're okay.
Yeah.
I accept you. Do you accept me? That kind of thing. Does it really matter? That's just,
you know what? I don't think. Okay, if I'm an actor, and I'm gay and I'm in a movie and I'm out promoting it, I don't think it has to be known, right? I feel like, there should be as someone who is gay, as someone who's in the LGBT community, you should not have to feel like you have to share anything you're not comfortable sharing, right?
Exactly.
I mean, with Brokeback Mountain that came out all those years ago, it's like people knew that at the time Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, they knew that they were, as far as we knew, they were straight men, straight actors, had done a lot of movies that a lot of people had seen before that. So they knew that they weren't gay. And I think that, but I've seen a lot of actors who are gay. I don't know, like, do you know Matt Bomer? He's an actor.
But I was just thinking of the one that played in Julia Roberts. And she tried to steal the bride away from Cameron Diaz, whatever that movie. I just watched it.
Right.
But he's gay.
Right.
And the guy that played Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, he's gay.
Exactly.
And you would never know from those parts.
Yeah.
I know. The movie with Julia Roberts, he did play a gay character, and he was gay.
Can you think of his name? I can't remember who.
I can't remember his name.
But like the one thing is, look up Matt Bomer, like, very attractive actor, super talented. I've always he's in a movie called The Normal Heart, which if you haven't seen it, and especially if you're watching this show, you should watch it. It was an HBO movie. It was all about the AIDS epidemic in the 80s within the gay community, right? And so without giving it away, he's in this movie, and I saw some interviews about him being in this movie. And, one of the reporters had asked him a question. First thing, before she asked about the movie, before she asked about anything else that he was working on, was how does it feel, what's your responsibility to be such a large icon to the gay community? Like, do you feel that responsibility? And he kind of the way he, if you can look it up on YouTube, look it up, he kind of shrugged it off. He's like, well, I obviously support the community that I'm a part of, but why should I feel that I have to coddle them through everything, right? He didn't want to be defined as just a gay person. He wanted to be like, okay, I'm an actor, yes, I'm gay, but we're not here to discuss that. We're here at my movie, and this is kind of what I'm proud of, and this is the kind of work that I'm doing right now. So I saw recently Shawn Mendes. He was on Grammys. Yeah, we love Shawn Mendes.
Shawn Mendes, yeah. Oh, the movie was My Best Friend's Wedding.
Oh, okay, yes,
that movie.
Right.
Shawn Mendes. So now on Twitter, I'm a great supporter of Twitter. I love Twitter.
We love to tweet.
Tweet. He's in Calvin Klein underwear.
Yeah.
Now there's story. Well, he might be gay. Why do we need to go there? Why can't we just say he's a young, gorgeous-looking guy.
Absolutely.
He looks great in Calvin Klein's.
Yeah.
Do I care? Why? Because it's a fantasy? Oh, I hope he's gay. Like you're going to call him up and he's coming over for drinks.
Hey, Sean, call me, right? It's not going to happen that way.
It's not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
Or you want to fantasize about him. But but somehow media needs to go there.
Well, I don't know if you remember this, but a couple of years ago when he really first started to come out musically with his career, and it was like, you know, a lot of people were writing on the blogs, writing on social media that he was gay. And I mean, at the time, I think he was 18, like 18 or 19, so then I think he went on to Snapchat and he did this whole big thing saying, you know what, I just kind of want to address something. A lot of my fans have been asking me if I'm gay. And then he's like, and he, you know, keep in mind, he's super young. He's saying, you know what, first of all, it shouldn't matter if I was gay.
Yeah, exactly.
He said, I am not gay, but if I was, you know, why are we concerned about this? It's about the music. I'm supportive of, you know, the fans, and you guys are like super close to me and all that. And I also think, like, can you even imagine being 20 years old and having the success that he has? I know I would, like, if that was me at 20 years old and people, you know, were berating me with these questions, and, you know, whether he is or whether he isn't is kind of, that's for him to come to that, you know, conclusion himself. But just the pressure of that, you know, and even sometimes I was watching actually a clip of him last night. He was interviewed on the Brit Awards, and they were talking about the Calvin Klein ad and all that. It's like, you could tell he was very uncomfortable with it. It's like, just, I mean, yes, he chooses to be in the spotlight and have a career in it, but in terms of when things are so personal, and like those are the years, I mean, everyone has their own journey and their own story as to how they got where they are now.
Exactly.
But, like, let the kid breathe. Like, he's, you know what I mean? Like, and I think there's nothing wrong with, obviously, when you're doing a Calvin Klein spread and you're in your underwear, you know why you do that. And, you know, I mean, Calvin Klein probably said, hey, here's like all of this money. Do you want to do it? And, you know, I actually think the ads compared to some of the other ones that I've seen were quite tasteful. Like, they weren't quite, you know, they were quite clean compared to some of the other ads that I've seen for Calvin Klein.
But again, if he wasn't an attractive man.
Right.
And he was in Calvin Klein underwear.
Right.
You never see Calvin Klein underwear models for someone like me or somebody that's not very attractive. It's always the image that Calvin Klein
That's true.
portrays. But, you know, that's their gig, right? That's what they're after. They're after that market and that demographic, which is great. But somehow we seem to think, oh, why do like I just cannot grasp the whole notion of, because when I read it, I thought, do I want him to be gay so I can fantasize about him? Or do I fantasize him more because he's straight, but I'd like him to be? You know, like, people get into that dialogue, and then you wonder why. And like, I mean, he's only 20?
He's just 20. He's 20 years old. And, you know, it's funny because I actually had the opportunity to meet and interview him a couple of years ago. And, I mean, literally, like, you know, you just look at some people and, like, the kid is just the definition of a star. He's talented. He's good looking.
Exactly.
He's super nice.
Yeah.
He just, you know, but I remember, like, when I first started to talk to him, like, and I'm the kind of person, as hopefully you know, like, I'm very easy to talk to. I warm up to people pretty fast, but I could feel his nerves, right? Like, at first, but then it was like eventually, keep in mind he was only like 18 at the time, but it's like, you know, I think that people do have that obsession with wanting to know everything about you if you're in the public eye, especially if you're like an international star like that. And, you know, it really shouldn't matter, especially like if someone said to me, like, you're going to interview Shawn Mendes right after we do this, I probably would ask about the Calvin Klein ads.
Can we hold it?
Yes.
We're going to break. We'll be right back with Will Nash. B101, XB101 maybe, formerly at Rogers on daytime and now in Toronto, looking for his next fabulous gig, and who knows what that's going to be. But again, welcome and thank you. And we've been talking about so much, but just before we came back to on air, I remember saying to you, like, when I was Shawn Mendes' age, 18, 17, 16,
oh my God.
Being gay, or they called it homosexual, it was it was a crime. You could be locked up. So teenagers back then, which I was, we grew up in those very informative, inquisitive years where you think, where you wouldn't tell anybody you were gay.
No.
anybody. In fact, they would make fun. I remember this chap in high school, and they used to call it Thursdays was Queer Thursday, and it was okay.
I'm like gasping at hearing
and
that.
it was okay to be queer, not gay. Queer on Thursdays. You could be queer on Thursdays, and nobody could say anything. That's the kind of mentality. So we've come a long way since then, right?
So you can be queer, you can be gay one day a week.
One day a week, and it was Thursday.
The 6th day,
and
you
they
better
called
go back to acting straight.
And they called it Queer Thursdays.
Oh my gosh.
But
so I mean, like, how would they celebrate? Like, what would they do?
Oh, I remember this guy came up behind me and hugged me, and he said, "Hey, Gerry," because
he knew.
He knew.
You knew, yeah.
And, "Hey, Gerry, it's Thursday."
Oh my gosh.
What that means? I can be all yours. And you're going, oh. And you don't want anybody, because it was really, so you do get a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And you do. And I just heard this at a meeting just recently. This friend of mine said, my husband hid behind me for 20 years. He was gay the whole time.
Really?
Yeah. So he hid. So there is that piece. Yes, there is that piece. But then it's women get married to men who are lesbians.
Absolutely.
There is that piece too, right? So it's not just one way. But
one of my best friends went through that.
Yeah.
She went through that as well, where it was like she was married to a man, and then I think obviously, like most of us, all along she knew, where her heart was at or where she was feeling, but it just took her a little bit longer to kind of, go from the cocoon to the butterfly, right? Like at that point.
And there's a lot like Ricky Martin. I mean, how long did it take?
I know.
Like, why did he have to? Well, he eventually got married. He now has kids.
Yeah.
But when I first heard about Ricky Martin many, many years ago, a Latin heartthrob, women were throwing their.
And the funny thing was, like, that wasn't really that long ago.
No.
Like, that was like 1998, 1999.
I was going to say 20 years ago.
Like, it was 20 years ago, and it was still this kind of, oh my gosh, like, could he be gay, right? And then, but it was, almost kind of comparing to what you're saying with the Shawn Mendes thing. It was like, it was like you kind of had the gay men and the housewives for the fantasies.
The gay dog,
like, yeah.
Oh no, he's gay.
And like, people ask me that all the time too. They're just like, do you have good gaydar? And it's just like, well, I mean, I think that when you are, in the LGBT community like we are, it's like I have a sense with someone who I think who might be gay, and I've had people who've approached me and said, who've shared things with me where they're like, they're kind of dancing around it, but they're like, keep it quiet, keep it, to yourself, because I'm just not there yet. I mean, I think we can all relate to being at that point.
Yeah, and I think it's important for those of us that are in media, like yourself and myself, that have airtime, whether it's radio or television or print media.
Yeah.
We're not always only interested in sex.
No.
We're not always only interested in every dude that walks into the room.
Believe it or not, we're not swinging from the chandeliers on a commercial break. Like, you know what I mean?
We don't all have pink boas.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not all, like look at Liberace for years and years, denied, and those that were in the gay community, oh, come on.
I know.
The diamonds, the furs.
Yep.
And then you find out, and his mother would go to his defense, and then you look at the lavish lifestyle, and then you find, but that was his gig, but it wasn't. It was there, but it wasn't there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing too. You raise a good point, especially over the last few years. There's been some athletes, in the hockey world, in the basketball world, who have, either come out or been in that position where they felt like they had to say something, or have gotten caught, so to speak, that, hi, I am gay, sort of thing, right? And it's like, gay to me doesn't necessarily have, it actually took me a while to realize this, but gay to me doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have, a lisp. It's okay if you do, but you don't have to. Or you don't have to wear fitted jeans, right? It's okay if you do, but you don't have to. Or you don't have to, be obsessed with Lady Gaga, right? And again, it's like, I think it's just, I look at being gay or being, whatever your preference is, as being just, it's a part of me. It's a part of who I am, but I don't want that to define me. Just as I don't want any one single thing to define me or who I am. I'm more than one thing.
Yeah. It's interesting you say about jeans, because when I was growing up, the gay guys were wearing tight jeans.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
And then and they had short buzzed haircuts.
Yeah.
And the straight guys wore baggy clothes.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the short buzz haircuts. Now, and they wore earrings. Straight guys wear earrings now. They wear tight jeans.
Yeah.
They wear buzz haircuts. They may have a beard. They may have a beard. It's become so that it's so you don't know anymore, and you don't need to know.
Well, it is true. Like, even like you were talking about, moving down to Toronto. Like, I remember when I first moved to Toronto about 3.5 years ago, because as much as I loved Barrie, I always felt that sometimes it could feel like a really small community for dating or for getting to know people, right? You felt like, oh, I know the 10 gay people in Barrie. Like, I'm joking. I know
they know me. No, there's not 10. There's 12 now. You've been 12. Gone for 3 years.
Things have changed.
2 guys came out recently.
You know what though? Like, and it's like when you go to the city, you kind of feel like, okay, there's going to be more of a pool because, a lot of people I know who are gay or lesbian or whatnot, it's like they want to be in a bigger city because then they feel they're going to be around more people who are like themselves, and if they are single, looking for somebody to date and be with and whatnot. But like you said, with the fashion, with a lot of, it's not so much a term now, but at one point, like, people kind of metrosexual, like straight guys who are dressing like they're gay.
Sexual. Or flannel.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Lumberjack sexual. Why? You have a flannel shirt on.
I mean, I've got a flannel shirt in my car, right? Like, maybe that's what I'm feeling that day. But it's like, I would never want to offend anybody either, right? Yeah. Like, I think that's like, if straight men or, straight women are kind of blurring the lines a little bit, nothing wrong with that. I think at the end of the day,
straight guys get manicures, pedicures, get their eyebrows done. You got yours done recently.
Well, yeah, you saw that.
Did anybody ever guess what it was for? Because somebody said, I know you're going on a makeover show or something.
I like to stir it up on social media a little bit, and I was kind of going through some old pictures of when I worked here, and because technically I was just trying to say that I was coming onto the show. I was coming onto Rogers.
So I didn't chime in because I thought I'll give it away maybe.
No, I thought it was because I wanted earlier in the week I just kind of want to buzz up some. No one actually, I think. Somebody who was actually a former host on Daytime Road on Rogers.
So you're going to be on TV.
Yeah. So, but we'll leave them waiting until the last minute, right? But
some of your fans.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I have that many.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, there's quite a few.
All 5 of them are right there.
I just took one of the 302 pages.
Oh please, no.
And they said, things that they want to know.
Okay.
About you.
Is this a hot seat?
Yeah. So here's one of the questions. I don't understand why anyone decides to make sexual preference the primary way they identify themselves, speaking to the point that we had speaking.
Yeah.
I'm a heterosexual male, but I don't broadcast that. I just am. I might say that I'm a mountain climber, a hiker, a nerd, a runner, a father, an outside sales guy, or any number of other definitions. Why is sexual identification so primary for the LGBT community? Or am I being swayed by what I see in the media? Interesting question.
Oh, man.
One of your fans.
Of
course, they didn't sign their name.
He's been thinking.
He's been really. What would I ask Will Nash if I could ask Will Nash something?
He's had the pen and paper, right? I mean, I think it's one of these things. It almost is relatable to when people ask, why do we celebrate Pride? Why do we have a Pride parade in Toronto? I know you have festivities here in Barrie as well. I think it's because when you're in a situation of not being able to publicly announce, or even not even publicly announce, but be comfortable in your own skin where you can't share that personal side of yourself if you're gay, next to the person who's beside you who's straight, who doesn't necessarily feel like they have to. I think it's a part of like the process that that a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community feel like they want to share that with people, because I think it's been something that for years and years and years and years, we have been told to, it's not okay to be gay, or there must be something wrong with me if I'm gay. Wait a minute, like, my friend to the left of me clearly likes girls, my friend to the right of me likes girls, my friend who's a girl likes guys, but I don't relate to that, right? Mm-hmm. So you do feel like a little bit on the outside. I think that when you're younger, like looking back, even like myself, like I definitely, I always kind of felt a little bit different, right? But I feel like it took me a little bit longer to understand what that was. Mm-hmm. And then when I finally got there, I remember like looking back at grade school and thinking, okay, like, I in my mind, I idolized this guy, right? In like grade 6 or grade 7, grade 8, because he would have been like, probably the athletic guy, good looking, and when you're 12 and all these things are kind of happening to your body, it's you're just thinking of it like that, like almost you're looking up to somebody. But now I look back, I'm like, oh, like, all these years later, like thinking about it, it's like I probably had a crush on that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or there was something about him that, made me think or feel that way.
Yeah.
But my point is that, I mean, certainly back then, I mean, although there are kids now, which I think is great, who are kind of at 12, 13, 14, even younger, coming out and saying, I'm gay, I'm a lesbian, I'm bisexual, whatever it is. You know, that is something that did not even cross my mind at that age to let alone say to myself, really let alone say out loud to everybody around me. So I think that that's part of the reason why that a lot of people in the community want to say it or feel like they have to say it, because they have not felt like they've had that right for a long time. With that being said, I always say it's a personal journey, it's a personal thing. There could be lots of people who go through life and never publicly say that, and that's okay too.
Yeah, there's a Twitter thing on recently. So 2 guys, 2 girls, couples, male female couples, right? So they're chatting and they're playing up against this whole. So the 2 guys say, one guy says, "Oh, I need to go to the bathroom." The other guy says, "Oh, I'll go with you." So the 2 girls say, "That's weird," and they're saying, "Well, why? Girls go to bathrooms together in pairs, so why is it wrong for us?" Yeah, but that's just weird. The next scene is. The 2 girls come and knock on the door, and so one guy's in bed, and he goes, "Oh, where's Mike?" Mike's in the bed with him. "Oh, 2 guys in bed." Yeah, but you 2 were in bed together in the other room. Oh, yeah, but you're 2 guys. But 2 girls, it's, you know, like that kind of thing. So there was a double standard in that whole. So 2 guys that could be very friendly. Yeah. Because men can love men without being sexually attracted to them. You can love a guy because of his intellect, because of his personality, or because he saved you you were in a drowning and he saved you, and you know, it doesn't have to be sexual. But somehow 2 guys together, it is. It's just. They're gay.
And when I say it is, I mean society's perception, the media's perception of it is that they're gay. Because I think that, you know, like you said, a lot of girls could cuddle up in bed with their girlfriend, you know, platonic girlfriend, Netflix.
Exactly.
And nobody would think anything of it, right? But I think that, I mean, that's not a very, you know, masculine thing to do with another guy. You know, and I think that, you know, in that way, and not every situation, but women definitely have a lot more security in terms of their own sexuality than a lot of guys, at least a lot of the guys that I know.
Well, you know, and growing up, I remember I had an older cousin, and we were staying overnight at his house. Yeah. My parents were there, my 2 sisters, and there was nothing wrong about bunking up, and and his bedroom was in the attic. Yeah. But it was a finished attic. Right. And I had never seen anybody naked. And oh, Gerry, you're going to be in with him, with my cousin. I don't want to mention his name. He's probably not going to. But anyway, you're in bed with you're sleeping in his room. Right. Well, sleeping in his room meant the same bed. Yeah. But for my mother and his mother, who were sisters, thought that was okay. Yeah. Well, it turns out that he was a bit of a pedophile.
Oh my goodness.
And he came to bed with no clothes on, and I remember. Like, I remember it because I remember seeing him at the door, and I thought, he has no clothes. And I never seen anybody naked. So there's an example of where, oh, yeah, we're cousins. Yeah, except one cousin had something else in mind. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I mean, that's, anyway, well, I digress a little bit, but, you know, there's an example of, well, that was okay.
But you know what, though? It's funny because, I mean, you're bringing me back when you talk about, you know, your cousins and sharing the same room and whatever. I remember a conversation I had, and I had actually overheard a conversation because I think my cousin had stayed over at my place when I was a kid. I had bunk beds. I was on the top bunk. She was on the bottom bunk. I remember overhearing my uncle saying, "Oh, like my parents used to call me Willie, right?" And they're just like, "Oh, you let Willie, you know, sleep in the same room as like his daughter." So, and I was just like, I was so like, what? Like, like I didn't even understand that. Like I was like, you know, because this is just my cousin who I grew up with and I played with, but it was like. Thinking, I still think back to that moment, and it was like, again, that was not necessarily even his perception of me and, you know, what I would be doing or would not be doing in the room. I think it was more, again, a society thing that's going back, again, a number of years ago, but it's that feeling of, okay.
But that was okay, because then we'd spend a week at my grandparents' place, and again, the boys would have the boys' room, and the boys and guess who I got in bed with was him, and I didn't say anything because I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know what it was. Like, I didn't know he's gay or he's...
Right. So you got into bed with the same cousin?
Well, I was always... we were paired.
Oh, my God.
And my other cousins were paired. So it was, oh, yeah, Gerry always bunks in with him.
Okay.
You know, that was weird. Anyway.
That's probably a different show, right?
It's a different show. But I mean, no, we're talking about perceptions.
Yeah.
And you know, like two guys together, some people might think, well, they must be gay when they're not, you know.
Well, it's even like the idea of, like, you're right, even the idea with the kids thing, you know, where if little boys play with Barbies or if, like, girls are playing with cars, it's like, you know, is it really going to shake up the world? If, you know, you're playing, I played with a Barbie as a kid, like, it's not really going to matter. I'm not, you know, hurting anybody.
No. And it's part of the learning process.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yes. Uh-oh. The hot seat.
Do you believe in same-sex marriage, as we're talking about?
Right.
Because I've often said same-sex marriage has been around about 13 years.
Right.
A gay couple, married, two guys married, walking down Dunlop Street holding hands could be an issue. Yeah. Married couple, two gay guys, married, sitting in some restaurant in Barrie.
Yep.
Cuddle, could be an issue. What's your view on that?
I think that, you know what, I mean, I am a strong believer in that, you know, you love who you want to love or who you feel you should love. And if you want to get married to that person, if you're gay and it's another man, if you're a woman, it's another woman, you do it. You know, we're lucky enough to be in a society now, at least here, where you can get married to who you love. You know, again, if you're a gay man and you want to marry another man, or you feel like that's your purpose, and that's what you want to do, that's what you feel here, you feel it in your heart, you feel it in your stomach, I'm all for that. I really think that you should be able to love who you want to love. I feel like even with your question, there was some, you know, a little bit of PDA kind of had come up in there. I think that with that, I'd say it really all depends on what you're comfortable with. And I really think that it really does, you have to factor in, unfortunately, I'll say that, unfortunately you do have to factor in, you know, where you're playing kissy face with your partner, right? Especially if you are in the LGBT community. Not because you should have to think that way, but if you're doing something maybe at Church and Wellesley in Toronto, that's one thing. But if maybe
5 points,
if you're you know, if you're doing it at 5 points on a Saturday night after, you know, the bar's let out, unfortunately, I think that as someone who's gay, you have to think about that stuff. I mean, I think that.
But you're married. You're legally married. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like, you know, but unfortunately, when someone is judging you for your preference or judging you for your sexuality, whether you're married or whether you're not at that point, to those people probably doesn't matter. All that they see is something that they don't agree with, and I would hate to see somebody else in the community hurt or, you know, victimized from something like that. So I'm saying, hey, by all means, you know, hold hands, skip down Dunlop right now. But it's like, I think that as gay people, I think that we have that mentality where, you know, we're not comfortable. And you know what? Sometimes I think that it doesn't even have to do with being gay or not being gay. Like, I am a very, like, caring person. I'm a very loving person, but I just don't really know that I'm that kind of a person who's going to walk down any street hand in hand. Right. Like, you know, it's one thing to, like, kiss somebody goodbye or kiss somebody hello, but I mean, I'm not really big on PDA. I don't care if you're, you know, gay, straight, pink, purple, black, white. It's just like, you know what, like, get a hotel room. Like, you know, at that point,
walk down
right?
Castro Street in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Or down in Provincetown.
Yeah.
Or in the gay village in New York.
But at the same point, you should be able to love and marry who you want to, because, you know, in some ways, thank God it's 2019.
You're now living in Toronto?
Yeah.
The Pride Parade in Toronto. So last year it was World Pride, I think, was in Toronto.
Was it a couple of years ago?
2 years ago?
Yeah, I think so, a few years ago, yeah.
Okay, so this is a double-ended question, but I'm going to put it all into one. Some will say, why do gay people, A, have to have nudity in their parade, A, and B, why do they keep rubbing their sexuality into my face? You don't see a straight parade.
Yeah.
You don't see this. And why am I always being bombarded by the Jussie Smolletts of this world
by
saying homophobic attack, blah, 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 when it was, you were So what's your view on that? Like,
oh
this
wow,
whole piece?
that in itself, that's the show right there.
Okay,
But,
so next week you can come back.
Hey, I'm happy to come back. But I think the thing is with that is if I'm being completely honest with you, I think even within my own self, and I hope that I'm not offending anybody who's watching, is that I always struggle a little bit with the whole the Pride Parade. And when I say that, what I mean is, first of all, I think back to the whole, same-sex marriage thing, I think that we should be able to love who we want to love, and celebrate that love, because for years you were not able to do that. And now, in some settings, again, like I know we have Barrie Pride here, there's also Toronto Pride, World Pride, New York City, like all of these places are doing this, and I think that's fantastic. The thing that I actually wish could be a little bit altered is taking away some of those. If you're going to do it in on a mainstream level, so like a street festival, right? I would like to see us get in a place where maybe save that adult stuff for maybe at a nightclub, or maybe
Woody's.
Woody's, right? Cruise and tangos, right? Because I feel like the way that I don't have kids, but my sisters both have kids, and they are raising them in the way of, they know that they have a gay uncle, and they actually have another gay uncle, and it's like they don't care. They're happy for whoever that they decide to love. So I know at some point, especially my nephew's 10 years old, I'm sure his body's gonna go through changes, and whoever he ends up, feeling that he wants to love, maybe he'll be interested, Will, you were at Pride, what goes on there? Maybe, I would love to be able to say, hey, come into this setting, but not that 90% of it is probably fine, but I wouldn't want him that to be his first exposure of being gay. I think that I always kind of have this struggle with it. I attend, I go to it, I celebrate, I'm with my friends, there's dancing, we're having fun, we're partying, we're enjoying the festivities and the colors and everything about it, but it's one of those things that I in some ways I wish, it could be a little more subdued. Yeah. And again, if I don't make sense, hopefully it's coming through okay, because I believe that you should be able to celebrate this, because again, for years and years and years, far beyond my time, far beyond your time, you weren't able to be open and public about it. I think that's fantastic, but I just think that if you're involving family, if you were gonna have kids and you're having young kids who are coming in, would you, because you're a father, right?
Yeah.
Would you want grandfather?
Four
right?
grandsons.
Who knew? Right? Who knew?
Four
but
grandsons.
I think I saw the picture on Facebook.
Yeah,
that was super cute. Yeah. But it was one of those things where it's with your first exposure to saying, hey, I'm your dad, or I'm your grandfather, and I'm gay. Would you want that to be either a stereotype or explicit?
Well, within the gay culture, which Pride brings out, there's all those subsets. There's the leather daddies and the pups and the
twinks
and the twinks. And then there's the drag queens. And so this is all being showcased going down a church street. And your eye is just grabbed to all of it, and it's just outrageous in some cases.
Well, it's I'm sure you probably remember, because I know I do. It's you remember that first time that you go to a Pride event, especially the Toronto Pride, right? Because I think that, like you said, it's you feel like you're Dorothy walking into Oz. You open up that door, it's black and white, and then what is behind that door, right? Perfect gay reference, Wizard of Oz. But it's but I think that after a while, if you've attended Pride or this sort of thing on that weekend, on that week, it's you realize after a while you kind of, it's not quite as blowing your mind as it did before. But it is cool that, the art of, we were talking about, I was talking to a friend of mine about drag queens the other day, and it really is, it is an art.
It's totally.
You know what I mean? And I think that now more than ever, thanks to RuPaul, and I think there's going to be a Canadian drag queen show as well. It's I think that's on a mainstream level starting to come into a point where it's becoming more respected too.
Yeah, years ago, Phil Donahue, you probably don't remember.
My grandfather used to watch his show.
Oh, thank you.
Like him and Sally Jesse Raphael.
Yes.
Yeah,
well,
with the
Phil
glasses.
Donahue had three men on who were female impersonators, so not drag queens. And so what he did on the show was he'd go to them. One of them was a mechanic.
Okay.
And he'd fill them in their shop as a mechanic, fingernails dirty, grubby, unshaven, blah blah blah. And then he filmed another one who was a lawyer. I don't know. But the mechanic one was the one that struck me. It was in the 80s. He came on the show as Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
And actually didn't lip sync. He actually sang "Happy Birthday, Mr. President." You know, her face, and had the white dress,
right?
That famous subway dress.
Did he jump out of the cake?
No.
Okay.
But the point is, he's totally straight.
Oh, okay.
But he did this as a side job because people would hire him to show up at parties. Because he looked like her.
Yeah.
You know, with the dimple, the wig, the way he could speak.
Yep.
He was like in the shop, in the mechanic shop, he was totally like, whoa. And suddenly he's got this, and people would hire him to show up at parties or show up at events.
Unbelievable.
And he was making money. But what I'm saying in all of this is that that's another subset that people would think, oh, there's that too.
Well, and
are all drag queens gay?
I mean, I don't think I can sit here and say that they all are. Exactly. I don't think, who am I to say that? But I think that
1 minute left.
1 minute left.
1 minute left.
Well, this has flown by. But it's.
I have all these other questions.
Well, maybe I'll have to come back.
Yes.
Right.
Definitely.
Well, the thing is like, talking to your point about the female impersonator, I think that just shows that everyone has all these different sides to themselves, right?
Exactly.
You have your side here on your show.
Yeah.
You have your side at your daytime job. You have your,
Yeah.
Gerry After Dark. Who knows what happens, right?
Gerry After Dark. Oh, that could be a good pitch for next season, right? Gerry After Dark.
Remember, send me the trademark, buddy.
Oh yeah, right. Finder's fee.
But I think and I think that's great that now, in a lot of ways, people are really just starting to discover those sides themselves.
I wish you every success.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for taking time to come on the show.
Absolutely.
And sharing so freely.
Of course.
And there has to be another show, Will.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun.
Thank you. See you next week.